Hi, I'm Mark Saunders-Barwick and I'm coming to you today from Motor Services Exeter here in Devon. Now, we're here to look at the fabulous new charging infrastructure that's been installed by Tesla over there and GridServe here behind me. However, there's a downside here to this wonderful new charging infrastructure being installed, particularly for local areas. So currently at the moment, CPOs, our charge point operators, are wanting to get charging stations here. They have to apply to the DNOs, or distribution network operators. Now, these applications are made on a first come, first served basis. Now, in this particular instance here at GridServe in Exeter, GridServe have quite rightly applied for the largest connection that they can get, which is 8 megawatts. And that means that for grid services connection at least, there's 24 ultra rapid, or labelled as ultra rapid chargers, but that's not necessarily the charge that they're delivering. Let's not forget that in terms of motorway services charging anyway, GridServe has pretty much got a monopoly with no competition. And that's because recently the CMA, Competition and Markets Authority, decided that GridServe could hold that monopoly until 2026. And also the way that GridServe has achieved the connection here means that no other charge point operators can come into the area because there's no further power. So that's restricting charging infrastructure being installed regionally, but also more importantly, across the whole of the UK. And the way that the grid connection has been attained here in Exeter stifles competition, prevents competition. So it means that no other charge point operators can come into this area. And that's not just in this area, but also across the UK where this model is happening. It's massively restricting the geographical rollout of charging infrastructure across the United Kingdom. And here in Exeter, that also means that critical infrastructure such as industrial estates, the airport, which isn't too far behind me, and more importantly, the meteorological office where our weather forecasts come from, those areas or those facilities are also unable to expand because all of the available headroom of power that was going to be planned for the next 20 years has been taken up by the installation of the charge point here. So how can we in the UK grow our charging infrastructure without these power restrictions and energy bottlenecks? If charge point operators were to implement ZPN's battery energy storage and hubs technology, that means much smaller grid connections are required. And CPOs can apply for multiple connections of below 1 megawatt. Now, not only is this faster and cheaper for the CPOs, but it also means that there's no restrictions on the availability of power for other services in the area, such as, I don't know, maybe a new school or a factory. And because ZPN's patented battery energy storage systems are able to charge and discharge simultaneously, that means that any grid restriction is removed. So rural sites then become viable. So with ZPN's charging technology, a typical EV station can actually increase the number of density or the number of chargers on their site by up to 30%. But better still, if you add on-site renewables to the mix, such as solar PV, that charger density can actually increase by up to 50%, which means that the price per kilowatt for the operators is much cheaper and their margins can increase by up to 100%. So to summarise here, if the UK is going to have the rollout of the charging infrastructure that's needed and that's required, battery energy storage is key to supplementing those grid connections. So no doubt about it, the way forward for all EV installations, charging installations, is going to be battery energy storage.